Sri Lanka as a whole has a huge diverse culture. The great creations we have, Sigiriya paintings like in Degaldaruwa temple, in shaping the global identity, highlighting its rich and diverse heritage. But to take it beyond cultural sites and to take it globally, we haven't had a platform yet. So I think what we have started with KALΑ would be an ideal launching pad for greater things to come, a storytelling to the whole world about our indigenous arts, culture in Sri Lanka, and take it globally.
We tend to separate art and craft, but craft is very much a part of our history in terms of art practice. But I think that combination of not having to separate the two and understanding how important it is to celebrate these practices and ensure that they are continued and preserved in many senses. KALΑ sees itself as an event that sits in a very important position in Sri Lanka because we believe we have the potential to be a major art hub for the region, purely because we are the only country that is this level of accessible to all countries within the South Asian region.
The beauty about art is that it captures people's imagination. I had an art teacher many years ago. He always said to me, look at a piece of art and share your opinion. Nice thing about a piece of art, it makes you talk. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you're going to have an opinion about it. You can easily voice that opinion. You don't need to study art for years and years in order to have an opinion.
Children are all artists, and we all have that innate ability to create, to innovate. As we grow up, I think you tend to form patterns that take you away from art and culture. What we wanted to do at H&B was to reintroduce art, creativity, design, and talk about it, have conversations so that there is more awareness, so that there is more information out there for people to connect.
Thank you everyone for joining us for this, our first conversation in the lead up to KALΑ, a platform for South Asian art that takes place in February this year. We're excited to be at the Echelon studios. Echelon is one of our programming partners for this edition, and we're here today with three of our key partners for the next edition. I'm excited to introduce you to Declan Hurley, the director of Cinnamon Life, City of Dreams, Michelle De Silva, Head of Private Banking, HNB, and Shanitha Fernando, President of Authenticities, Sri Lanka. Today, we'd like to talk about the timely conversations in these partnerships and alliances that we are forming for this platform. And we'll also be talking more about the art and culture and tourism industries of Sri Lanka. Cinnamon Life is the first property to invest in a permanent collection of contemporary art. You have more than 1,000 pieces in the new property. But John Keel's foundation has been over decades investing in the art industry of the country. How do you feel that Sri Lankan art and culture play a pivotal role in shaping our global identity?
I think art is one of these things that can travel the world. And the beauty about art is that it captures people's imagination. And what I always love, I had an art teacher many years ago, and he always said to me, look at a piece of art and share your opinion. The nice thing about a piece of art, it makes you talk. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you're going to have an opinion about it. And you can easily voice that opinion. You don't need to study art for years and years in order to have an opinion. And I always kept that in mind because, you give a book to someone, are they really going to read 300-400 pages? I appreciate literature is part of the arts. But if you look at a short poem, if you look at a short story, you look at a painting, a drawing, it's so much easier to be able to share that opinion. And as you travel the world and you look today, everything we do today is fast. Everybody, TikTok. Why do we like TikTok? Because you can swipe. Why do we like dating apps? Because you swipe right, you swipe left, right? You don't go through what school did you go to, what education do you have? It's just you look, you like, you don't like. And it's the same with TikTok, and it's the same with Facebook, and it's the same with everything around us. And, I remember when I saw people traveling with big books, 600 pages, and they get onto a plane and they were excited to read. Today, you take out a tablet, you flip through the news. The newspapers now have summarized their articles to just one page. And I think the nice thing about art today, it's evolved in such a large way that you have kids that are interested, teenagers, you have adults that are interested. You have people who said, oh, I don't care for art, it's not for me. But suddenly now they're becoming involved with it in different shapes and forms. I think the most interesting example is probably what the Korean government has done. So many moons ago, they went back and said, how do we get Korea to have a positive image in the world? And they looked at the arts. K-pop today is a force to be reckoned with. It's not by accident. It's not suddenly we all learned Korean and went crazy for K-pop. The Korean government had a plan. They created these boy bands, girl bands, put K-pop out there. It's very catchy, great sounds, great dance moves. Whether you speak Korean or not doesn't really matter. They look good, they sound good, they dance well, and it's a form of art. You look at some of the ultras and movies that have come out. We're all crazy now for Squid Games. Season 2 just came out, in case people didn't know. I've already watched all 6, and I'm waiting for June when we get part 3. In Paris, just a couple of weekends ago, they closed down the whole of the Champs-Élysées to play Squid Games. Red light, green light. It's amazing, but it is a form of art. And so art is really reaching people in such different ways today than it did maybe 30 or 40 years ago, when art was either a 600-page book or it was a painting from 300 years ago in a stuffy old museum. Today, you have video art, and it's still something I'm researching here in Sri Lanka. As you know, we have one piece of video art at Cinema Life, and we're certainly looking for more talent to develop more video art. It's a form of art I think is fantastic and very underrated in my opinion. But it's art allows everybody to communicate together. And recently we just had a meeting in the sky, which was a collection of 2,000 kites that we assembled with an artist called Kumkum. And it was fabulous to see people from all age groups coming in and looking at this piece of work, this installation. Initially when Kumkum came up with the idea, I was like, yeah, okay, fine, let's see how it goes. And then more we developed it, more he developed it, I should say. It was amazing to see the reaction people had. And I think the most emotional one I saw was we had this gentleman who unfortunately has no sight, but he came in and he touched the kites and he listened to the sound, and you could see the emotion that it had for him. And there's very few things in life that can bring that sort of emotion out in people. And the fact that we were able to somehow touch his emotions in a small little way, for me I think we've done something right. And we did that through art. And I think that's fantastic.
I think the meeting in the sky was a wonderful exhibition, and it was a true example of how a property such as Cinema Life can use such massive spaces that you have within the building to do installations like that are not possible in a gallery space, for example. And that was really, really wonderful, and such a celebration of Sri Lankan craft as well.
Absolutely. So, and I think, that's, as I said to Kumkum, I'd love for that installation to travel the world and to, in some small way, represent a little bit of Sri Lanka. I mean, I know it represents Colombo and the wetlands, but at the same time, it represents a little bit of Sri Lanka as well. And I think, if we could get that to travel the world for people to see it and experience it, wow, I mean, what a message that would be. Of course, we're a little bit behind K-pop, but I still think we have a good chance of catching up with them.
Well, and Fernando is an artist who has exhibited internationally now. So in terms of Sri Lankan diasporic artists, he's made a huge name for himself in LA. He's presented at Coachella as well. So it was really exciting to be given the opportunity to see his work in Colombo on that scale.
Oh.
Michelle, HNB is one of Sri Lanka's leading banks and has grown from strength to strength. This is not your first alliance with the art industry, and I know that for many years you have been wanting to form a stronger alliance with the art world. Can you tell us, how can Sri Lanka's art and culture play a pivotal role in shaping our global identity?
So like Declan was saying, I think children are all artists, right? I mean, we all draw as children, and we all have that innate ability to create, to innovate. But as we grow up, I think structures and formations happen, and then you tend to form patterns that take you away from art and culture. from creativity and innovation. So what we wanted to do at H&B was to reintroduce art, creativity, design, and talk about it, have conversations so that there is more awareness, so that there is more information out there for people to connect. I think as a corporate, when we get involved and we support the creative economy, we're actually helping to create an identity for Sri Lanka as well. Because right now, whatever perspective that the world has of Sri Lanka may not be all positive. And this is, I think, a great opportunity to help the creative economy, to support it, to have more people get involved in it, to be one of the few to lead the charge, to help more corporates to get involved and support, so that we can actually bring a different perspective that the world can have about Sri Lanka and see the talent and the creativity and all of that we have.
Absolutely. I mean, you put that so beautifully. I think that there is so much to be celebrated in a country that has been ridden by so much crisis. And Sri Lanka really needs to be celebrated more and more. And it's so important to have large organizations such as H&B supporting that growth. Shanitha, Authenticities has been integrated with the art and culture in Sri Lanka from, I believe, the very beginning. As president of the organization, we know that you're incredibly passionate about the arts yourself, a collector yourself. But Authenticities also has a very strong perception of how art and culture can be celebrated to people visiting the country. You bring in HNIs who have a very specific goal to engage with Sri Lankan art and culture. And I believe that you as an organization are very passionate about also connecting our craft communities, people within the greater areas of the country that are less accessible. Can you tell us how can Sri Lanka's art and culture play a pivotal role in shaping our global identity?
Thank you, Saskia, for the opportunity. Sri Lanka as a whole has a huge, diverse culture. I mean, if you go, our history dates back to 3rd century, and the amount of the great creations we have, if you see the Sigiriya or the medieval Polonnaruwa temples, or if you go to paintings like in Declan temple, or the frescoes in Sigiriya and Damulla, I mean, we have a great story to tell. So certainly it's pivotal and in shaping the global identity, highlighting its rich and diverse heritage, blending with traditional practices with modern expressions. Here are a few ways that I think that we can expand the story worldwide by showcasing our unique cultural heritage. We are ranging from its vibrant traditions, dance, music, craft, to its ancient architecture and literature, can be a compelling part of the story in our nation's global identity. And also our cultural diplomacy. Sri Lanka can engage in cultural diplomacy by actively participating in international festivals, exhibitions, and cultural exchange programs. This is not only builds bridges with other nations, but also positions Sri Lanka as a vibrant cultural hub. Then also tourism and global attention. Arts and culture can play a significant role in Sri Lanka's tourism industry, helping the country to be recognized by its exhibitions, performances, and workshops that highlight local craft, heritage, and indigenous traditions. Then also promoting contemporary creativity. Sri Lanka's contemporary art scene also going international attention with emerging artists using modern media to showcase these artists. Sri Lanka can add a contemporary and a global perspective to cultural identity, blending tradition with innovation. So I think these are some areas that we can attract tourism in a much more finer way. Of course, the art collectors all over the world, if you see, they are predominantly high net worth clients. If you see the exhibitions that happens all over the world, or the museums that display some modern art, that is something that we are lacking in Sri Lanka. And I'm glad that we have brought this subject, KALΑ, to a discussion point so that in the ensuing months and years, we can have that infrastructure in Sri Lanka to attract more high-end tourism who are lovers of art.
Thank you, Shanitha. You touched on some really, really important points there in your response, and many of which we want to go into further depth in this conversation. But speaking of Sri Lanka, that has such a rich cultural heritage, how do you feel we can preserve that heritage, but also make it more relevant to international audiences? How can we strengthen that connection?
As Declan mentioned, now with the modern technology, I mean, we can have virtual museums, we can have films, we can digitize some of the art where it's accessible to a wider audience all over the world. And also by collaborating in this region with the best artists or visiting their countries for collaborative sessions, educational sessions, we can expand this narrative about Sri Lankan art.
And with your knowledge of so many of these ancient sites, have you seen that initiated in some of these areas in any way or form yet?
Certainly not at the moment. I mean, people who go and see these works of art are very passionate and very, very attentive to the details. But to take it beyond the cultural sites and to take it globally, we haven't had a platform yet. So I think what we have started with KALÀ would be an ideal launching pad for greater things to come. But I think we must also start a narrative or a storytelling to the whole world about our indigenous arts, culture in Sri Lanka and take it globally.
In fact, our art and craft, you spoke about indigenous practice, and that's an interesting global conversation that's very timely at the moment. In fact, we tend to separate art and craft, but craft is very much a part of our history in terms of art practice. Yeah. So it's wonderful when you combine those two in conversation and realize the importance, coming back to Meeting in the Sky, which was very much an art installation, but it was also craft practice. Third generation, in fact, was highlighted, and I really enjoyed that exhibition. But I think that combination of not having to separate the two and understanding how important it is to celebrate these practices and ensure that they are continued and preserved in many senses is incredibly important. So it's so wonderful to hear that you're planning to take that internationally. And also, thank you, Shanitha, for highlighting that importance. Declan, coming back to you, KALÀ sees itself as an event that sits in a very important position in Sri Lanka because we believe we have the potential to be a major art hub for the region, purely because we are the only country that is this level of accessible to all countries within the South Asian region. How do you feel Sri Lanka can build on its positioning as a regional art hub?
I think there's a huge opportunity. I mean, the great thing, the sad part, or the good part is, there's incredible artists in Pakistan, incredible artists in India, but yet they cannot visit each other's country. And we're sort of the neutral site, which makes us just a great venue for this type of conference. And I think there's a huge potential here because if you look at Sri Lanka and the neighboring countries, we have incredible talent here. And there just hasn't been the right venues to showcase some of these artists. And, it's great if you have access to some of the big shows, whether it's Fries or whether it's Art Basel, but there's a hefty price to get into these sort of events, and, not everybody can do so. I think here we have an opportunity to really showcase some local talent, some up-and-coming talent, some established talent in the various forms of art. And I think nobody's really taken the lead in going out and trying to create a conference such as this in the region. And I think this is just a unique opportunity to begin something that can truly become very, very big, and something that will be of interest to collectors, that will be interesting for galleries around the world. And you look at Art Basel, the first event they had in Hong Kong, I think they drew 20,000 visitors, if I'm not mistaken, or 15,000 visitors, which, okay, they had a name, but it's still impressive how many people they attracted. We're going to be happy if we have 4,000 or 5,000. So imagine the future looks extremely bright. And I think, based on the artists that I've met here in Sri Lanka and some of the artists I've met in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh as well, we have such great talent here. And in the hotel, it was difficult to choose which artists to select for the collection that we do have at Cinema in Life. There was just so much talent out there. And people were excited to work with us and to create some really unique works, which is exciting to see. And I know we have a small contemporary art museum here in Colombo, but it'd be fabulous to have something far larger to be able to showcase all the talents. And you look at the Meeting in the Sky exhibition. It was just one installation in a great space, but we looked actually at relocating it to another venue in Colombo, and we really struggled to find a venue where we could keep that installation going for another 30 days. So we couldn't keep it going for another 30 days at Cinema Live. We'll bring it back, but there is a need in town to have bigger spaces for art. And if we can trigger that interest by having KALÀ, by bringing people in, by showcasing some of the talent, by helping people realize that we can bring this to a far larger audience, and we can develop the talent that is in the region by offering more spaces, this would be a great achievement. But I think the potential for KALÀ is absolutely huge. And I really see this conference growing into something, in the next 3 to 4 years. I would imagine we'll have 5, 6, 8,000 people coming who want to be part of this. And I really think we're off to something absolutely amazing.
Well, it's been wonderful to have the support of Cinema Live from the very beginning. And I know we had conversations before KALÀ even came to its first edition. So it's been wonderful to have that understanding that we do have, of course, in establishing KALÀ, in how it has so much potential to be something much larger in this particular part of South Asia. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, with this residency that we've been able to facilitate for this edition, we've brought together artists from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and we've been having wonderful gatherings with them since they arrived last week. And the conversations that arise simply from the small community of artists who come from different parts of the region, but also the way that they connect, because we relate to one another so closely. In being neighbors, and also in our own country's art and culture. There's so much that we're excited to share via KALÀ in this edition, via the residency that we facilitated. But I think it also, as you rightly pointed out, it is one of the key characteristics of this platform in uniting countries from the region. Michelle, what role does the arts play, in your opinion, in building a country's economy, and how can Sri Lanka capitalize on this potential?
So when Declan was talking about the crafts, and you said you can't separate the arts from the crafts, I was just recalling a book that I read recently on the crafts of Sri Lanka. And they had picked a range of crafts from, making the drums to the masks to, the birulu laces and all of these. And how it is not really transcending to the next generation, because the younger generation want economic prosperity. They want faster ways of earning money and building better lives than their parents have. So these crafts are just dying, and nobody knows about them. Nobody knows how important they could be, how we can monetize them for these communities. So what I feel is, as a corporate, as a financial institution, how HNB comes into the whole scene is by encouraging and also by supporting these arts and the crafts. I was actually wondering how, if each of these crafts could be adopted by a corporate, and then able to give them the financial assistance, give them the platforms that they need, how this would actually grow without staying within that small community or family or village, take it to a different level. And for HNB, in doing so, we can see how it can create more jobs, how it can stimulate entrepreneurship. And I think our role is to help these people to monetize those skills and talent for themselves, because when they see that it actually can be monetized, that they actually can earn a living from it, then there'll be more people actually subscribing to allowing them to use their talents and make that a career. Because I think a lot of people, even though they are artists at heart and they have a passion for the arts and crafts, they may not choose that as their careers because they feel it probably doesn't generate enough revenue for them to have the lives that they want. I think that is where we see H&B coming in and supporting these communities to monetize their skills, to help them in developing their arts and their crafts and their industries.
I think that's been such a... Sorry, Shanitha, you'd like to share
Also,
something?
to add to that, I mean, successive governments over the 20 years, I think, have supported these craft industries. But why it has failed is, I mean, we have not been able to find them international markets or introduce them with foreign buyers or foreign companies or designers who could use their skills, talents, and also to make it an export-oriented business. Or either they have been completely in an area where there is inaccessible for tourism, so that tourists does not necessarily go there because of inaccessibility. So I think if we can plan this better in the coming years, so that first tourism benefits from all these cultural elements like pottery or crafts or birulu or whatever. Some of them are actually dying businesses.
Yes.
Most of them doesn't want to be in that any longer because there is no economic prosperity. So also it's up to us and also for the government, the responsible people in the country, the corporates, to find them the relevant necessary markets, approachability, so that they have some continuous orders where they also can sustain their livelihoods.
That's true. Like, we have the spice trail and we have the art trail. So why not a crafts trail from the north to the south? You have so much you can link the dots and present it. It'll be great for tourism.
Absolutely. And I think also building on that conversation with art and craft and not separating it. I mean, joining the two together, because we have this tendency when we're referring to craft practice and the livelihood of that and the issues that the sector is facing, we have a tendency to separate those conversations. But they're very similar to the arts community and what is in fact shifting over the last few years. This industry is growing, and those two have the potential to benefit one another in that growth. But Shanitha, how would you say the hospitality sector could build stronger alliances with the arts community and vice versa, with this in mind?
In any economy, in any part of the world, tourism plays a huge role. I won't say the problem, but one side of negativity in tourism, Sri Lanka, is those tourism dollars does not spill out to every strata of life or every economic level of people. So the hotels benefit, we as companies benefit, but we don't make any extra effort to unearth and give opportunities to craftsmen or to artists or to artisanal jewelry or whatever you may call it. So tourism is very pivotal in any thriving economy, and also in terms of sustainability of these artistic values, artistic communities. We can explore the opportunities by taking the tourists. It can be a cultural immersive experiences. In my company, I have few experiences where I go to a batik artist, to a house. I mean, as you know, only about less than 500 batik artists are relevant in the country. All of the others have either shut down their businesses because there is no prosperity. So I go to this house, I take all our clients, families, learn about batik painting, they do some drawings, and also eventually they end up buying our products. And some of the clients even gone back and given our orders, So like that, if we can do our little part by highlighting all these immersive experiences to do with local artisans, I think there's huge scope in this industry.
And would you agree with that, Declan? How does Cinnamon Life, as one of the largest new projects, I mean, in fact, in Asia, how do you see your role in strengthening that alliance with the arts community, not only within the property, but even within the country?
Yeah, no, it was interesting to hear the point on the crafts. And it was interesting about a year ago, we were looking at sort of little gift items for visitors coming to the hotel, especially in the first few weeks. And of course, we have a lot of companies that come to us and offer us keychains and leather wallets and everything made in different countries. And I said, no, I want something that's made here. And I'm a great believer that if you gift something, there should be a story behind it. There has to be an emotion attached to it. Because a keychain is a practical, but you probably already have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And it just goes into a box or it gets given away to somebody else. And, I'm really sorry for those who gave me a keychain in the past year. I probably gave it away to someone else. I had made a good gift or put it in a raffle. And so we worked with a company here, and I was very keen on seeing what fabrics we could produce. And so it was very interesting going to some of the villages here, learning about the different weaving techniques that exist. And I never realized this, but within Sri Lanka, every different part of the country have different ways of weaving textile, which is really interesting. And we met a lot of these old ladies, and I'm not biased, but I'm just curious why some of the younger ladies in the village were not interested. And I was told that, they can't really make a living out of it. And they prefer to go to the city and get a job and have different career opportunities, which I fully understand. But these ladies were weaving, and what they said to me was that it was kind of sad because they had nobody to pass it on to. That they were the last of the generations who would be weaving, and once they passed, that would be it. There would be nobody to take over. It kind of hits you when you think about it. And so I thought, maybe this is just one village. But then you go to the next village and the next village, and it was kind of the same thing. And we ended up in a village down south, and the lady there was weaving. She was all alone, and I said, anybody else? And she said, I'm the last, and I'm training 2 young ladies to do the same technique. But, they maybe are not going to be interested. So whatever I make for you, that will be last of its kind. And you go, wow. I mean, that's kind of a historical piece that we're going to have. And so we worked with these different villages, ordered different shawls and different items from them as well. So hopefully we supported them in some small way, and we will continue ordering from them. The idea is we only order 200 or 300 pieces at a time, and then every time they do a different weave, a different style, a different color. Because obviously I want the gift items to be unique and to be special, not to be one of 10,000. There's no value in that. And so it's been a pleasure working with them. It's been an amazing experience learning about this, which I never realized existed. And yet, if you're a tourist here and you want to buy one of these products, it's very difficult. There is just one shop in Colombo who sells it, and that's it. And otherwise, you end up in some of the bigger tourist shops buying a product that may or may not have been made here in Sri Lanka. And I think it's one thing I would love to encourage. And we don't have a retail shop yet in Cinnamon Life. We'll do that in the future. But everything we would have is going to be made, designed, produced here in Sri Lanka. And of course, not everything is possible, but there's an incredible history, there's an incredible culture that we can bring to life. And there's a number of items there that just have sort of got lost as time moved on. And I think it's just great to sort of revive them and bring them back to life. And so that's our little contribution. But I think, as a property like ours, I always tell my team, if you think we're a hotel, we'll never be successful. We're so much more than a hotel. And we have a place in the community, and we need to work with the community. We need to share with the community as well. We need to be part of the community. And there's many ways you can do that, but I think one of the most effective ways we can do that is through the arts. As I said to my team, one of the things I'd love to do is have like a long weekend, 4 days of the spoken word, of poetry, which I don't think anybody has really looked at. And I know it's a niche art, but I think if we can bring that alive, it would probably encourage other people to participate. It's just like writing. I mean, how do you learn how to write? Some people go, oh, it just comes to you. Well, no, it doesn't just come to you. You learn how to write, you develop your skills. But again, if we could do like 3-4 days of workshop on short stories, for example, which is an amazing art, it would be fantastic to do that. The great thing is that we have space. We have an incredible team that loves to support these sorts of initiatives. And with the name Cinnamon, we are part of the hospitality in the country, have been for many years. And so I think we have a great opportunity to have a strong voice in the art world and to bring some of these forms of art to life. So it's exciting, and we have so many ideas of what we want to do. We've got a few of them off the ground. You've been able to see a few. We have some great stuff coming in the next 3-4 months. I won't tell you what, but some really exciting things. And we have more planned for later in the year and for early next year as well. So we already have like a 2-year calendar of all the different things we want to bring alive. And I find it very exciting, and I hope the community finds it exciting as well.
I think it's really exciting for us as a platform to work with all of you as key partners of this, because our vision really does align with development, but also playing an active role in that development and having that clarity at this point and seeing how we can strengthen that via these conversations, which are intended to also influence other corporates to get on board and realize our responsibility as a nation to get actively involved. But your answers now in these conversations, these topics that we were talking about really highlighted the importance of industry building. We spoke about craftspeople who are working without a second generation or without the next generation, and these dying crafts. Something that I've observed in the arts community is the lack of understanding in the value of the arts and the value of an artist's practice. And I believe that also locally we need to build that understanding and awareness. So in as much as we function as a developmental platform, we have to acknowledge that industry development in a commercial sense is incredibly important. And as an arts community, we have a tendency to divide the two and sort of one shuns the other, whereas one needs to start supporting the other. We need to start looking at developmental platforms, understanding the need for the building of an industry. And coming back to you, Michelle, how do you feel that the finance sector can build stronger alliances? And then off of that, how do you feel that the country can potentially get more support and structure in building these industries, whether it be via tourism and varying sectors that relate? How can we look at that strategically over the next 10 years?
So H&B, we are a retail and SME bank primarily. We have evolved over the years, but our core has always been SME. And within that SME structure, you have many of these craft industries, many people who the bank has supported over the years financially. But when it comes to a bank, we always look at it in a very analytical, very logical way. So unless you have collateral to give, unless you have a past record of financials, it's very hard for a bank to look at it and see whether they want to invest in that little business or in the industry even. So I think that is where the shift needs to happen, and it's happening with us, where we're looking at a potential business, a potential craft maker, and then we're saying, can we look at this business other than just collateral and past records, and look at what can be created and support that in that sense. So right now we have marketplaces where we encourage B2B kind of businesses. So we call it a podi business. So it includes the crafts as well, where we create a marketplace, we bring these people down, where they have the opportunity to sell or have a platform to display their products, and make some economic gain out of that whole thing. Also on the tourist side, a platform like KALÀ will attract so many tourists and foreign investors. And in that sense, where the bank can come in and then provide those people with, because like when tourists come in and the hotels and the restaurants and all of that benefit, because they have to provide services to these people coming into the country. And then how the bank can support that in terms of helping the merchants who will be now getting, part of the economy, part of the creative economy, how the bank can support them in terms of working capital or in terms of funding in different forms to support KALÀ. I think that's how we would like to look at our journey for the next 10 years.
So my final question before we wrap up for today is, how does a platform like KALÀ for Cinnamon Live change the landscape of the Sri Lankan arts community? And what does Cinnamon Live City of Dreams see as the benefit in the alliance with our platform?
I mean, see as a benefit sounds very commercial. And, really, we're not doing this from a commercial point of view. This is truly just to support and develop the talent that exists here at Sri Lanka and in the region. I think we have an incredible spaces where we can showcase the works, whether it is paintings, whether it is drawings, whether it is music, whether it's installations or video art. We have that space, and it's great to be able to use it for what I think is doing something that is good. It's when you run a business, you're always looking at the profit. How are we going to make more profit? Who can we partner with to get more clients? And profit, of course, is important because it allows us to do things to support products like KALÀ, for example. But at the end of the day, you have to be a good citizen, and it's so important to support others as well. As you don't become successful by yourself, you become successful because of the support of others. And I think it's so important to give back as well. And I'm not saying we give all our profits back, but what I'm saying is that we should invest in the community in which we are resident in, and that community which supports us as well. Because without the support of the community, we're truly nothing. I mean, if you start thinking about it, if friends or family are visiting and people say, oh, don't stay at Cinnamon Live, then they won't. They will stay somewhere else. And, if people don't want to support the property, it's not going to go very far. So we need to be a good neighbor. We need to be a good citizen. We need to support and develop areas which we can. And I think the arts is one where we have an incredible opportunity to showcase, to bring limelight to up and coming talent, not only here in the country, but also in the region as well. And I think, what's important to me is that we get KALÀ to keep growing every year, to become bigger and bigger, to be recognized as the premier event in the region. And I think that opportunity does exist. And I look forward to supporting it, to participating in it, and also in a selfish way to discovering more talent, more artists in all sorts of different forms of art. So that for me is extremely exciting on a personal note.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Michelle, how does a platform like KALÀ change the landscape, and what does HNB see in the benefit of this alliance?
So for HNB, it's twofold. One is in terms of the SMEs and the economy around the artist and how we can support them. From a private banking point of view, so we've had art advisory for a long time, where we have been encouraging clients to look at art as an alternate asset, like Shanitha, to be collectors, and to see how they can transition their wealth, their succession to the next generation through art, because it's a nicer way of doing it. There is so much of passion and so much of legacy there in transferring it. That has been something that we've been focusing on as a private banking proposition. And also in terms of philanthropy, where we have also been encouraging clients to look at philanthropy in a different way, to encourage people to go out of the city to see, because they want to give, they don't know where to give and how to give. So I think we have a very powerful platform in being the bank that they trust for advice, to show them where they can actually put that money and how they can make it work. And in that sense, we're connecting them with artists. Because during our art conversations, we've come across so many artists from the north, from the east, who, they don't know anything beyond their little village or their little town. And so when they're brought to Colombo and they are connected with these high net worth individuals, I've seen clients commission artists like that do things for their living rooms and, do art specifically for a particular cause. And I think, like Shanitha was saying, it just opens up an entire different world for these artists. And that is how we as a bank could actually form that connection, that trust with the community. Because like they are wondering whether they should go to Cinnamon Life, they're also wondering if they should bank with H&B because there are so many banks today. We would want to encourage people to look at the bank not just as something just wanting to make profits or wanting to, yes, we do need to give our stakeholders what they have invested in for, but also more as a socially responsible corporate. And I think art is a great way to do that. And I'm very privileged to be part of an organization that's looking at art in that sense and supporting it. And we're very, very excited to be partnering with KALÀ.
Thank you, Michelle. We're excited to be working with H&B as well. Looking forward to the many things we have planned in the months to come. Shanitha.
I also, as a company, Saskia, I always advocate buying everything locally. Whether it's a hotel company or whether it's whoever, I want them to buy everything locally. So one, which will help the community to sustain their livelihoods. Second, it will also control the carbon emission impact. If you want to buy something in Habarana, you are sending it Colombo, it causes an environmental impact as well by way of emissions. So one is that I am advocating strongly, and I want others to follow, is I have a policy where you buy everything locally. Locally, it can be art, it can be food, it can be vegetables, so that we create that local economy around that ecosystem. Second, also, art plays a vital role in building the country's economy by stimulating creativity, driving innovation, and also fostering and thriving a cultural sector that generates income, creating jobs, and attracting tourism and investment. So I think what we have started is great. We wish you all the good luck. But not stopping at this, we would like this to continue from strength to strength so that we give the local artisans the pedestal or the platform they need to go to the next level, the awareness, and also awareness in the region and also globally that Sri Lanka's cultural heritage also has artisans to support going forward. So that's the message we want to send to the world. So I wish you all the best and good luck for the event.
Thank you so much, Shanitha, Declan, Michelle. Thank you for all your support. KALÀ exists very much as a community with collaboration with all your organizations and the many supporters that we have, edition on year. See you all in February. Thank you for joining us for this talk.